everybody, and welcome to the Helen Winder Show. I'm Helen Winder, and today my gorgeous guest is Vanda North from Mindtree, the Joy Enhancer. Hello, Vanda.
Hello, Helen. Good morning to you.
And morning to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Share with my listeners a little bit about yourself and what it is you do.
Well, Helen, I'm one of the most fortunate people in the world. I create my own fun, and that is by being able to share with people ways that they can very simply and practically put more joy in their own lives. And I go around the world doing this with people from top executives in the multinational companies, to students in schools, to people that are old, every single mothers that are trying to manage keeping things together, business people that are afraid and just thinking there's got to be more to life. And through my writing and my mentoring and my teaching mentors and doing wonderful things like your radio show, I just let people know that there is an option, that life could be joyous for them.
Yeah, because I think we all ultimately, we want that, we need that, we desire it, but sometimes we're so wrapped up with everything that we forget how to find it.
Exactly. And you know, the lovely thing, Helen, is that it isn't earth-shatteringly difficult. It doesn't require any special equipment. It is literally free, and it is that control that we have over our own bodies and our own thinking, and we all have that if we're just given the ability, the simple skills to be able to take the reins of control of us.
Yes, yes. Rather than being led and
Yes.
sort of directed by other means, it's having control of ourselves again.
And also, so frequently people think that it's everything else outside of them. So it's this person's fault, it's that situation's fault, it's the job that I have to do, it's the place that I have to live, instead of saying, no, actually, all of that is, and that is real. However, my attitude about it, my internal attitude, is the one that makes all the difference in the world as to whether I feel I can manage and make the best of this, or whether I feel I'm going down for the 7th time.
Oh, this is resonating very well.
Oh, ouch. I'll send you a lifeline, Helen.
So how did you become the Joy Enhancer? How did you know, that all come about?
Well, that is actually a long story that I'll make very, very short. And it is that I was about 7, growing up in England, walking along a lovely sun-dappled lane, and I suddenly had this feeling that I could be, well, I didn't know the word enhancer at that point, so it was that I could do something with joy. And I had this little picture of me traveling around the world, merrily sharing joyous things. And I thought, well, that sounds like fun, but isn't everybody joyous already? And then, of course, as I grew up, I realized no, people weren't. And what did they need in the way of practical skills to be able to assist? And so way back in the early 70s, I did some of the original workshops in stress management. And then I got on to doing a lot more work in the brain and how it functions for creativity and managing information and managing your thoughts. And I thought there was so much stuff out there on stress that it wasn't necessary, except that I would travel the world doing my courses. Every couple of years I'd see the same people. And what I noticed was, from about sort of the middle of the 90s to the middle of 2005, was that they were going down and down and down. And eventually I said, what's happening with you chaps? You're choosing, they'd chat with me, and I'd know that they had drink problems and drug problems, and they were feeling very depressed, and often their relationships were breaking up. And they'd say, well, we're so stressed. And I'd say, but surely there's so much information on stress, you must know things to do. And they'd say, oh, yes, yes, but, and this was the cry from all, we don't have the time. And so I finished that tour with a very heavy heart, and I sat down in my little home in Florida with a very dear friend, Richard Israel, and over a cup of tinkling tea in a tinkling tea cup, which we always have when we're fixing the world, I said, look, Richard, there's nobody more than you and I who can come up with a solution. We've got to take the best of all we know and kind of boil it down like a condensing a stock so that it's really powerful and can happen in a short amount of time, that not even the busiest executive can look me square in the eye and say, Vanda, I don't have time. So we started with 12 minutes, and I said, nah, too long. 10 minutes, nah, too boring. And then we got to 8 minutes, and I said, perfect. 8 is a lovely number. It's all round, and you can make 2 4s and 2 3s and 2 0s, so it's just a fun number. And so 8 it was. So we have 8 simple little steps, each step taking 1 minute, and it's available through the book and through my website and through courses, and it really, really, really makes a significant difference in people's lives.
It sounds absolutely fascinating, and like you say, I mean, I noticed myself sort of in the late 80s and 90s, there were a lot of, in corporate, a lot of courses coming on, you know, for stress management, and they really were sort of drumming it into us, and I was thinking, why are we all suddenly displaying more stress? It's really not right. It just wasn't resonating right with me, and I just thought there's something going on, and yeah, you can go on as many courses as you want, but implementing them is another thing, and doing it, and if you can hone it down to just those 8 minutes, it makes such a difference. I think that's really important, and well done.
Well, do I have time to briefly tell you what the 8 steps are?
Yeah, please do, share.
Fabulous, because I like people to see that it's imminently doable. So the first step is just a breathing, and we do a square belly breath for any people that have done breathing exercises out there. We chose that one because it requires concentration. So the square belly breath says, body, I am not wanting to let you go into the heart beating fast and adrenaline pouring. I'm wanting to take control of you. Second is a focusing of the brain. And so for 1 minute, we focus on the word one. And that is, sounds easy, but give it a go sometime and see what number. Every time another thought comes into your mind, you have to count 1 up and see what number you get to by the time a minute is up. So that's the first 2 steps.
Yay.
The second 2 steps, we go back into the past, and this is where so many people are dragging the past and negative stuff with them, which is a major, major cause of the strain of stress. So the first minute, we go back and we say, what might I have rather done differently over the past 24 hours? Not to get cross with ourselves, but to learn the lessons, because it's usually those closest to us who are the ones who are pushing our buttons, and we respond before we've thought about it. We go, I didn't really mean to do that. So we learn the lessons, and then that means that the next day we try just a little bit more to respond the way we want to, not the way we do by default.
Mm-hmm.
And the second of those minutes is for looking at our successes. Because now that we're big girls and boys, nobody tells us what good jobs we've done usually. And so we have to do it for ourselves. So where were my successes? And you count those. So that's the next 2. So we're halfway there. The third quarter is taking care of now, when we look at our body, emotions, actions, and thoughts. This is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, the down and dirty of. And so what we do is we say, okay, are they what I want? And if they're not, then we change them. And the last 2 minutes, one of them is to go forward 24 hours, to think of what we have to do, but more importantly, how do we want to be? What are the right emotions for the things we have to do? Because we are human beings, not human doings, and so consequently, we need to think about that. And the final one is a minute of gratitude. And that's just a lovely way to end your 8 minutes and to think about all the things we have now or might have for which we are grateful. And then I like to add, if it involves someone else, why not tell them? Because that actually doubles the enjoyment and the happiness for everybody. And that's it, Helen. It's ever so simple.
Extremely simple. I mean, wow, this, everybody, you must get in touch with Vanda and learn about this, because, you know, those 8 minutes they will change the way that you look at everything, the way you feel, the way you even, I suppose, the way we even interpret emotions that come forward, whether it be anxiety responses, stress responses, anger, everything, fear, excitement.
Yes. It gives you just a moment to reflect on why that might be there and if it is what you want or not. I mean, one of the things is often people have to go through times that are very tough or very sad or both. And to be sad or to be upset is a real emotion that needs to be there for a certain amount of time to help with the cleaning and the clearing and the ability to move on. So we shouldn't be just la-la happy the whole time. It is using those different energies, appreciating them, but knowing that you're not stuck with them. That's the important thing.
Yes, because quite often we hold on to them thinking that this is how it's going to be, and we don't
Yes.
necessarily know how to sort of almost say, oh, hello, thank you for letting me know, but I'm going to move on now.
Yes, exactly. And the power of that, Helen, I mean, I've had some times, as everybody who's listening I'm sure has, and what was really good about it was that I knew that although I was really with my head in the mud for about the third time flat, I wasn't going to be staying there forever. There was this iron bar, I call it for me, that was in the deep center of me that I was holding on to, and soon enough I would begin to slowly start pushing myself up and begin to see, okay, you know, I can crawl back. And the beautiful thing is when you crawl back, you are stronger than you ever were before.
Yeah.
And new doors have opened that couldn't have opened if the other ones hadn't closed. I know we all hear that, but it's so, so true and gives you almost joy in the middle of suffering. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have several emotions at the same time to be, when this is over, it will actually be better than it's been before ever. How good is that?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, I fully understand what you're saying there, because I've been there a few times myself, and one of the things I always say to myself is, well, this is one stage that I won't have to go through again because I've come through it.
Yes, yes. Learned the lessons and moved on, and then the important thing is to let the past be past, because it is past.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about it, it's only you that's making it alive. Otherwise, it would be quietly tucked back there and just quietly disappearing.
Yeah, yeah, and they do. They fizzle, they dissolve.
Yes, they do. But because your focus and your memories are on the more recent things, and although stuff that you've been through is heavily charged and so therefore takes up a bit more of the memory initially, it is like stuff in the attic, even a great big chest of drawers in the attic. If you leave it up there long enough, will get covered in dust and cobwebs, well, certainly in our attic, and will sort of disappear.
Yeah, absolutely. So in business, as Mind Chi, has it been a straight road for you, or have there been a few little roadworks along the way?
My major roadwork was before Mind Chi, when I had a time that all of what I thought were the definite pillars in my life suddenly got removed at the same time. So my business I'd had for 22 years was aggressively taken away. I was forced into liquidation. My family, which was literally all the people in the business, my global network, had to all be let go, and that absolutely broke my heart. My mother, who was my only real relationship, close relative that I had, died. My companion that I'd had for 20-odd years decided to leave, and I had a birthday with a 0. So that was a fair big one to put all of those things together and to sort of dust itself off,
Yeah.
and to come out at the other end. So what was interesting about that was that I decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money for the Bournemouth Hospital, as you do. And as a part of that, lots of different things started happening. That was when I wrote Mind Chi, well, not while I was climbing, but afterwards. That was when, during that climb, I met a gentleman who, much to my surprise, has gone on to become a husband. I now have 2 beautiful stepdaughters and a gorgeous stepson. I have a whole big family because he's got brothers and sisters and they've got children. The book came out and then got a publisher, which I never expected. I managed to get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro actually on my 60th birthday. So that was some way to celebrate the beginning of a new decade.
Wow.
So after all that, you know, the ups and downs of starting a business seems very, shall we say, like not even a pothole in the road, just a little dimple. Whenever you're starting a business, it's a bit like children, isn't it? You have an idea, and then they take over, and they take you in directions, and they do things that you're delighted, surprised, amazed, and so I'm just holding on for the ride, Helen. It's just so much fun.
Absolutely. Wow, what a journey for you. And it's, you know, when we have to go through these moments, don't we? I know I certainly have, and I'm sure many of the listeners have all been through these little moments where things happen, but you do always come through the other side.
Yes, and that's what's so important, Helen. If there's one message we give to all your listeners today, it is to hang in, to have hope, and if possible, go onto my website. It's free. They can download the questionnaire to see where they start. There's the chapter from the book. There's YouTube taking them through all of the 8 steps. And then 28 days later, take the questions again so that you can see for yourself if it has made a difference for you and if you are coping and holding on to the reins and managing better than before.
Wonderful. So what is your website? Please do share.
It's very simple. It's the 3 W's, mindchi.com, M-I-N-D-C-H-I, all one word. It's not too fussy about whether it's upper or lower case or a mixture.com, and that gets you right to the website. And if they want to get me, I'm Vanda at mindchi.com, and I will give them links to even more information and answer questions and just do whatever I can to help anyone that is suffering at the moment.
Wonderful. And listeners, it doesn't take years to learn. It doesn't take months to learn. It's only 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And I like
and
that.
Done. Oh, good, I'm glad. And the lovely thing about the brain is the longer you do it, the more it builds in its power. So the idea is, yes, to deal with the strain of stress now, but then to build resilience. So if and when life throws anything else at us as we go through it, we are more resilient than ever to be able to bow slightly, but then bing back again sooner and stronger and better than ever before.
Yeah, because I think the trouble is when we're in it, we are in a cycle. It's almost like a little dog or a little woofer chasing its tail. And if you keep doing that, you just keep repeating the same things, and things just, they almost magnetize to that spinning around. So by learning the techniques now means that they won't hang on quite the same.
Absolutely. So many people start off when they have a problem, and if I bump into them or we have a little email exchange and I say, hey, how's it going? They'll say, oh, well, I got over that problem, and so actually I've stopped doing it. And I'm going, eek, please keep going. You know, I'm a fairly high energy person, and I've now been doing it for, well, since the beginning stages, probably, let's say, 6 years solidly, bar 1 or 2 very rare days. And I had a world tour a little while ago, just last year, and I was looking at how this 67-year-old body would respond to a very gruesome tour. It was an extreme amount of work. And and lots of traveling around the world, so you've got all the time differences and everything. And I thought, well, let me observe, because I've always used myself just as a laboratory to see everything that I share. What does it do and how does it work? And I was delighted that I got through that world tour better than any of the previous ones when I was younger. I had more energy by the end of very long days. I was able to resist colds and flus, and you know what it's like when you're A, in airplanes, and B, in hotels and business greeting meetings where everybody's breathing cold germs all over you. So I got all the way around the world, did lots and lots of work, and came back and thought, oh, you know, there's another way that even on myself I can see the difference doing it on a regular basis has made for me. And so I was pretty pleased about that.
Well, we have to try these things out that we teach so that we know what to explain to people. And we're the perfect examples.
That's very important, Helen. And how often have we seen people that speak about things to do but don't do them themselves?
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the criteria for people who want to become a Mindchi mentor, because it's a great thing for people who are coaches and things like that to add to their toolbox. And I always say the first and most important criteria is that you do it yourself, because if you haven't experienced the difference it's made, and if you can't look people in the eye and say, yes, I do it myself, then I think that negates anything, even how wonderfully you might say it. It takes the legs out from underneath it.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, it's like when you teach somebody to I don't know, to dance. If you don't dance yourself, then how can you do that? Because
Exactly.
they can't follow the same footsteps.
Yeah, and the passion isn't there, Helen. We need passion in life.
We do.
You know, when you know something makes a difference, you're passionate about it and you talk about it without it being a job, without it being sort of an external thing I have to speak about. You speak from heart and experience, and those two speak volumes, I think.
Well, listen, Vanda, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please, listeners, do drop by Vanda's website, mindchi.com, and take a look around. I'm sure we will all see a huge difference by engaging with Mindchi. Thank you, Vanda.
Helen, thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting with you over our virtual coffees.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you also to my listeners for joining us today. You can catch up with Vanda's interview on my website, as well as all my other wonderful guests, www.thehelenwindershow.com. I'll speak to you all very soon. Bye for now.